Well, good evening and welcome to St. John's for our Between the Trees series. And tonight we have Linda Carpenter with us. Probably most of you will know Linda. She has been our senior warden for this last year, and before that she was our junior warden. Did you serve on the vestry too?
No.
That? Okay. Oh, you went straight into being a warden.
Correct.
We must have had great confidence in you.
It must have, yes.
What were we thinking?
I don't know. Joke's on you.
Well, Linda, welcome. And I really appreciate it. We just had our annual meeting this past Sunday. So Linda is officially not our senior warden anymore. You get at least 1 year off.
Correct, yes.
You probably want to take a few more years than that.
It wasn't so bad. It was an enjoyable experience.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to ask you about that. And I gave Linda a few questions ahead of time, but I forgot one question I was going to ask you about. So growing up, you're a lawyer now.
Yes.
You weren't always a lawyer.
No.
Like growing up, you didn't grow up in like that sort of environment, did you?
No, I do not have any lawyers in my family.
Huh.
I'm the only one.
So what was growing up? What was that like?
So I grew up on a farm in southeastern Minnesota. And my dad is well, he's passed now, but he was a farmer, and my mom was raised on a farm. And my mother's siblings were all farmers too. I mean, they all grew to do that. My dad's siblings, though, one went into nursing and another went and worked at IBM. So there's a lot of farmers in my family tree, but the nursing then is also taken off. I have a great aunt who's a nurse. My sister is a nurse, so there's some of that too.
But no lawyers. You're the only.
I'm the only one.
Really?
No paralegals, no politicians, nothing.
And do you have a lot of is your family large?
I'm the youngest of 6 kids.
Right.
And my mom was one of 5. My dad was one of 3.
Okay. So, Linda, at Thanksgiving, when it comes time for a prayer, I always get called on because I'm the priest to say the Thanksgiving prayer. So I'm wondering for you, is it like that as a lawyer? Like if somebody's having issues, do you get the call?
I do. Well, I wouldn't know. I only get the call when I get the call. So if they're having an issue, maybe they don't call me, and I didn't know. If it was at, though, a holiday, I get that from time to time, legal questions. But the thing is isn't there something in the Bible that says, you're never a big deal in your own hometown?
Yes. A prophet is not without honor except in his own country.
Right.
So they don't think you're like the hottest thing in town.
Oh, no. I'm still the youngest child. I still have a lot to learn about life. So, which is a wonderful bit of freedom for me, because I can give the legal advice, and if they look at me with skepticism, I can say, what do I know? And then they can go on their way, or they can follow it. And because if they just hung on my every word, that's pressure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure.
I know.
So I think it's a good balance. I love my family. I have no problem. They could all call me tonight after this, and I'd talk to every one of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Do you have favorites?
Well, I love my children, probably.
Do you have favorites among your children?
No. No. No.
So this farm, what kind of farm was it?
Dairy, and then some cash crops. So Holstein cattle, they milked twice a day for a little while, 3 times a day. And then acreage, crops to feed the animals and then to sell.
Wow. So did you just get to do school, or did you have chores?
So I'm the youngest of 6. So by the time I came along, my parents had worked very, very hard and continued to work very hard after I came along. But my upbringing is different than my older siblings, because when you get married at 19, like my mom did, and have your first baby at 20, and you're trying to build a business like that, it's all hands on deck.
Oh, yeah.
So my older siblings absolutely were a part of that business. Mm-hmm. When I came along, and there's 16 years between my oldest sister and myself.
Wow, 16.
Well, but there's kids in between there. So.
That's a lot of years.
Yeah. By the time I came along, my upbringing was a little bit different. They were a little more established, and my parents had, you're different with your firstborn than with your last, right?
Yeah.
So I come along and I was given freedom to do different things. My older brother and an older sister, we were in sports. They all had jobs outside the farm. I owned downhill skis when I was in junior high and would go skiing. There's just things that I did that I know, especially the older I get, were different.
Yeah.
And so yes, I had responsibilities on the farm, but nothing like what they had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm the youngest of 4.
Okay.
So high five to that. And the youngest are always, I got away with all sorts of things that my siblings didn't get away with. Did you have a curfew?
Yes.
You did?
Yes. You didn't?
Not really.
And look what happened to you.
I know.
Let this be a lesson to all parents out there.
Give your children curfew or they'll become a priest. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I did.
Okay. Okay, so you've just finished senior warden. Mm-hmm. And you're still here. You hadn't left the church.
No.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
How was it? It was different because it was a COVID year. Really different.
Yes. But see, I've never been senior warden before, so I don't know how different it was, but I assume it was different. How was it? It was fine. This church has so many people involved in it. There's 2 people off camera right now. My role was minuscule because there's so many other people also involved, so many hands make for lighter work. And I didn't do the heavy lifting around here. I'm just this person who comes in a couple times a month or helps behind the scenes a little bit. I can't. It was fine. I have nothing to complain about.
So the saying about the sausage, once you've seen the sausage, did it? What I guess my question would be: was it a helpful to your faith or not helpful to your faith? Or not, neither.
I learned a lot in a good way. That's what I'll say. Were there times when I was rubbing my forehead and a little frustrated? Of course. But I got over it. Over the years, so growing up, there was one church. There were several churches in town, but if you were a certain faith, you went to this church, and that's it. That was pretty much your only option, unless you were willing to drive into Rochester, which I don't think many people did. So things would happen all the time in that church community that would upset people, but nobody left.
Yeah.
So coming here, what are we going on, 16 years? I would see people kind of fall away. And a couple times I'd follow up with people. And it surprised me that there could be political things behind the scene that they just left because there's other choices. And so throughout this past year, if I was frustrated, I'd think, I'm out of here. This is it, right? And then I would take a breath and sit back and think, what is this really about, Linda? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And relax, and I would think, what is my faith really about? Is it about this moment, or is it about this whole family community idea?
Yeah.
And that just overpowered everything.
Yeah.
So
I have a funny, I think it's funny expression that the church would be awesome if it weren't for the people.
Yeah, I've heard you say that. I've heard you say that.
But I mean that in a loving sense. I would say the same thing about family. Family's awesome if it weren't for all those kids.
Yeah.
So, I think community is hard sometimes. Just being in community is difficult.
Right. Because, and people have a lot of ideas for what they want to see here, and they're 99.9% great ideas.
Right.
So it's just a matter of respecting everybody and doing what you can.
Yeah, yep. And then trying to communicate to folks why we're not doing their great idea, or saying wait on the great idea.
Yeah.
Until, yeah.
And you've got to see that all the time, because people are going to come to you. And some people came to me here and there, but it was manageable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, good. So, thanks for serving as our senior warden. I mean, especially during COVID. Just gathering, it was hard, and it's hard to get a read for the congregation when we're not gathering Sunday by Sunday. You know, there are times when I'm just like, I don't know how we're doing, because we're so disparate right now. And you probably felt that as well. Right,
and I kept seeing the same folks popping up on the YouTubes and on the Zooms, and that was great. But I did wonder about others. And you know, before this started, we talked about how great it's going to be to come back to this building and see our neighbors and do all these fun things again, and have big celebrations. And it will also be really interesting to see who we see come back to the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were in this part of the church? I know you've been in that part of the church because you signed checks.
Yeah.
But when was the last time you were in the?
Well, I might get in trouble, but we had a bonfire, like a 4 o'clock, and I wanted to put my check in for a payment, so I just walked through the building.
Oh, well.
And I know that was a no-no, but I did it.
You know what? Any way that we can get a check at the church,
I
we'll
figured.
take it. So.
I figured.
No, so your sins are forgiven, no problem. So, well.
That's how it used to be, right? You'd pay some money and your sins are forgiven.
That's right. Not in the Episcopal Church.
No, not here.
No. But it will be great when we're all back
think so.
In this space together. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I am.
Okay, so you're a lawyer.
Uh-huh.
Now, I'm not a lawyer.
Okay.
So I don't really, I just wonder how that intersects with your life of faith. Because my impression of law and the practice of law and lawyers is sometimes you're put in situations that might be challenging for a person of faith. And I just wonder what that's like.
Okay, so when I was an undergraduate, I went to St. Thomas, University of St. Thomas here in St. Paul. And my minor was legal studies, and I took this course, but we had to take 3 theology courses as part of our general arts requirement. So one of the courses I took satisfied both. It was called Christianity in the Legal Profession. And it was taught by a lawyer and a nun.
Where was this?
St. Thomas, University of St. Thomas.
Okay, that makes sense, more sense. It wasn't the U.
No.
Okay.
I went to the U for law school.
Right.
I went to St. Thomas
This
for
is
undergrad.
Okay, sorry.
And the course, it was a pretty small class. I think there were about 15 of us. And it was a fascinating class because we would read a couple texts, and then we'd have these ethical and moral discussions. And the nun would talk about what Christianity requires. The lawyer would talk about what, the legal profession requires. And then we try to find some sort of overlap in those 2 circles. And I relied on what I learned in that course my first couple years of practice. But what it really comes down to is what that lawyer said about 100 times. To a point, it comes down to compartmentalizing your life. And the other huge part of it is the culture of the place where you work. So lawyers bill by their time. So the idea is that you're going to make money for your employer by working on files for which you're going to be paid. So pro bono, or working for free, is largely discouraged. Or picking up the phone when there's a caller who just wants to ask one question is discouraged.
Right.
You're supposed to get that person in for a meeting and bill them.
Right.
My second to last place where I worked, up in Forest Lake, my boss made it very clear to me that if someone calls with a question, I could spend a half an hour on the phone with that person, and it's okay.
Huh.
And that makes it so much easier to do Christian work.
Yeah, right. Because, I mean, I would think that the calls you get are not unlike the calls I get, which is people are in
crisis.
They're in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I mean, you are put in those situations where you're speaking to somebody and need to comfort maybe. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
There are. So for 10 years, I've worked as a debtor's bankruptcy attorney. So people who are in financial crisis. And there are a lot of tears shed. And there's a lot of shame and guilt and remorse and fear over money. Wow. And I've done this for 10 years, so I just hear the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory line again and again when he had the golden ticket and he was in the candy shop and he was going to sell it, and the man said, "They print more money every single day." Or maybe it was his grandpa. I don't know who said that. "They print it every day. It's not that special. Take this golden ticket and cherish it." And it's easy for me to say because I'm not in their shoes, but I've seen this. The weight on these individuals because of this. So in that line of work, working where I did, in that wonderful environment, I was able to use my Christian faith more than any other place I've worked.
Yeah, right.
And it was a blessing. And, you know, I helped people there for sure. But there are many other lawyers out there. It may not appear that they're helping people. And that's where the compartmentalizing comes in. In our country, we have decided that folks should have access to the legal system. If you've been accused of, opening fire in an elementary school with a gun, you are allotted an attorney to represent you if you can't afford one. So people might say, how could you possibly represent that horrible person? You're playing a role that our country has said needs to be filled.
Right.
So.
And justice. You're playing a role in a justice system.
And it doesn't make that person less in touch with his or her own Christianity. So I find myself defending members of the legal profession sometimes.
Yeah.
Are there times when I look at it and scratch my head like, really? That's what you're doing? Sure. But they play a role.
I think we all I scratch my head sometimes and say, well, really? In the church? So I don't think that, but that's really helpful for me, Linda, especially if you see yourself as part of this much larger justice system. And we have decided, I think quite rightly actually, that people, until they're proven guilty, should have access to the legal system, and that's what justice looks like. And so to be a part of that is I could see how your faith could truly play into that.
And there are people who think that it is the worst thing in the world that I would help someone file for bankruptcy. How? Those people are lazy. They didn't plan ahead. They spent frivolously.
Right.
They're taking advantage of credit. They're just going to file again in 7 years. Until you walked a meter in their shoes, you don't understand. And my boss in Forest Lake told me when I interviewed there, we are all one event away from a bankruptcy.
Oh, yeah.
And it is dead accurate because almost everybody could trace it back to, well, my dad became ill and I had to leave my job to take care of him. My
Right.
child was diagnosed with cancer. I lost my job. He lost his job.
Right.
A fire, a house fire,
A pandemic may hit.
a pandemic.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, and when you see it that way and you hear it again and again, and the people are like you're holding a mirror up to yourself. They have a partner, they have children, kids are running around in sports, they're trying to plan for their own futures. But there they sit on that side of the desk, and I'm on this side of the desk. But they're really no different.
Yeah, isn't that true? I mean, I don't know anybody who when they're 8 years old says, you know what I want to do when I grow up? Fail.
Right. Or start a business and it won't succeed.
And it doesn't work, right.
That's my goal. I'm going to start this business and it won't succeed.
Yeah, and it's usually just life happens, and life is hard. Yeah, and to be with people in the midst of their difficult situation is actually a real ministry. I don't know if you've ever felt like that.
I've been told that by other people. And the first time that I was at an indoor soccer facility, and another school mom asked me what I did, and I explained it to her, and she was the very first person that looked at me and said, wow, every day you deal with crisis. Yeah. And I had never put the word crisis to this ever.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to me. Crisis to me is an ambulance, it's a medical thing.
Right.
And I really pondered that for a while, and I realized, stepping out of my own situation, my gosh, she's right.
Oh, yeah.
And I see it as a ministry, but I also see it, this is weird, but I see it as such a blessing. Because for some reason our paths crossed, and I got to help them.
Yeah, right.
So I feel lucky.
Oh. Okay, pandemic. I've got to ask you about it. So you've got 3 kids.
I do.
One's in college.
Yes.
And one is in high school.
Yes.
And one is in elementary school.
2nd grade.
2nd grade. How's that going?
It's fine.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
I would. That is not the answer I would have expected to hear from you.
So,
I mean, they're going and they probably have 3 different ways that the schools are handling things. And both you and Mike, your husband Mike, both work. So how in the world can this possibly be going well?
Okay, like I said, I sit across a desk from people who are going through a lot.
Oh, true. Okay.
So it's all about perspective. And all right.
So it's not a train wreck.
No, I have my days. I have my days. And I was feeling pretty low in November when they said all the kids were going to come home. I felt bad for my kids. I felt bad for myself. Because I just saw this stretch of time where it was going to be cold and gray and the days were going to be short. All the things I was used to doing were shut down. I can't take the kids to the Minneapolis Institute of Arts, and we can't have these days to do this stuff. No sports. Okay, so here is how I've been blessed. Many ways I've been blessed. Number 1, my husband. He gets up every day, goes to work, gives 110%. Then he comes home every night and he is fully engaged with our children. Because I have that huge support, I can know that if I need to just take a breath, he's there.
Yeah.
And that is a huge blessing.
Yeah.
A second way I've been very lucky is that I was sort of, I had a bad experience this summer at a job. Then I ended up just leaving it. So now I'm home with the children much more. And I was able to have the huge luxury to leave that job, again, because of Mike. We just are going to make it work.
Yeah.
So I got to be there with the kids. And another way I've been blessed is I have seen people go through...
Did your kids want to be with you?
Well, no, they don't.
Will does, though,
Will does.
Right?
Not the other 2, no. I mean, they do at times, but...
Yeah, my kids want nothing to do with me.
Grace is in college. She's very independent. And so when she gave a speech here when she graduated from high school, and she said she was
awesome.
Interested in politics and all that. And she's still very much on a course like that. So she's become very involved in the sorority that she pledged her freshman year. She's been elected to a leadership position there, and she's looking to perhaps some future leadership positions. Her whole life, she gets up when the alarm goes off. She does the homework. She turns in the assignments. She shows up for the meetings. So she's fine. Isabel's a very typical high school kid. Needs a little more prodding, but she's finding her way.
Yeah.
You know, Will's in second grade, but the other day he was going into Target, sorry, Will, with his sister, and he decided he didn't want to hold her hand because, you know, he didn't want anyone to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's the tsunami of tears because he's getting older too.
Right. I know. But you and Will hung out a lot this summer, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
I love spending time.
I mean, he's the greatest guy in the world. Oh, well, and Mike's awesome. And Will's awesome. I mean, those guys are really two of my favorite human beings.
They have fun together.
Yeah.
Will's, he's just at that great inquisitive age.
Yeah.
And he's having fun. He has a next door neighbor though, so when he's home with me, the next door neighbor is also homeschooling, and she is a gift from God. Because she would be knocking on the door every day, and they'd either put on their rollerblades if the pond hasn't frozen, or once the pond froze, their skates, and disappear for like 3 hours.
Oh, that's great.
So I think he returned to hockey better skills than when he left.
Wow.
So he's very lucky to have friends.
He's going to play hockey. Did you play hockey?
No, it wasn't a thing.
Okay. Mike did.
No, it wasn't.
Didn't? I thought Mike was like...
He played basketball in the winter.
Mike played basketball?
Football,
I think
basketball,
I knew that.
baseball.
I knew that, actually. Yeah, he's super quick.
He's quick.
Yeah.
He still plays at the Y.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay, so I can't ask any more of my questions because we have a wonder stick. You might have seen it already. It's a technical apparatus.
I like how she pounded it.
Oh, she doesn't have any magic hands today. Just regular hands. Okay. So these are questions, Linda, that have come in while we've been talking.
Okay.
So, okay, first one. Oh, these are questions for warden questions.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, what was the most rewarding thing that you experienced as a warden?
Hands down with the people that I met.
Okay.
I don't know if other people have this experience, but I show up for a particular church service 75% of the time. I see the same people at coffee hour. I gravitate toward them.
Yeah.
Because I know them, I like them, I know it's going to be a fun conversation. We have a fun conversation. Grab the kids, out we go.
Yeah.
So with being in this position, there would be executive committee meetings preceding by a few days, the vestry meeting, and then the vestry meetings. And then sometimes people would come to you with questions or concerns outside of that, or staff would come to you with questions or concerns outside of that. Also, people who previously served in this position offered a ton of help. So I suddenly got to meet
a lot of folks.
Other folks.
Yeah.
And I met some great people. Not some. Everyone I met was great.
I know, isn't it?
And it was fun. I looked forward to those meetings, and I would look around and people would speak up on a topic, and I'd think, I have no familiarity with this, but you do, and you're very smart. Thank you for your input. I like this person. Yeah,
and we actually got along, didn't we? We didn't have any drag outs, did we? I don't think so.
No.
Not this year we had.
I can't speak to previous years, but nothing this year.
But one of the things too that I know happened this year, because you and I taught, priest and warden, and one of the things that I appreciated that happened this year is that people, when they have problems with me, would come to you. And that's actually how it's supposed to work, is that the wardens are there. It's the people's wardens, and that's how it should work.
I didn't get a lot of that, to be honest with you.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But,
that is how it's supposed to work. And it worked fine.
Yeah, good. Okay. What advice would you give a new warden, like Karen? You've
Karen
been,
Herrera.
2 years ago you were junior warden.
Yep.
And then you were senior warden. So what would you give the new wardens? Karen Herrera and Michael Schweisguth are our new wardens.
And they're going to do great.
Yeah.
The great thing about those two is that they're just smart. They've been going to this church for a while. They have varying interests. So, I mean, what I mean by saying they've been going here for a while is they kind of know the lay of the land a little bit. They don't overlap so much in what they participate in at the church, which is great because then they're going to kind of cover their bases. Advice. I only know from my own experience and my own personality. And in my own personality, I'm so used to being able to control so much of my life because I'm a lawyer, so I can kind of say, this is what I'm going to work on today. And then I have that power and I can delegate tasks and say, you're going to do this. And they're like, okay, right? And you do that for 20 years, you kind of get into this mode where you have all this control. Now, when I get home at night, the control falls off. But, or I try to make it go and then it's...
Right.
So coming here,
because you probably have other warriors in your house.
Yeah, I created them. These monsters.
What were you thinking? You created warriors.
So my advice would be, which something I had to do personally, is take a step back and see a new landscape here and how you can perhaps best serve the church. And for me, it was stepping back and saying, I can't try to control everything. I can't try to put my agenda here, my timeline here. I have to respect all the other moving parts and jump into the conga line where I fit.
The vestry conga line. That's a whole new image for me.
Yeah.
Linda, yeah.
And I tried to do that as best I could. And then I always felt so much happier when I just said, just step back, Linda. This isn't your show to run right here. You do what you can do to best help people and then sit back. You
found a great balance.
Thanks.
I mean, everybody knew that you were running things, and but you didn't do it it didn't feel like warrior or overbearing in any way. So you've hit a great balance.
There are a lot of very smart people in this church.
There are.
In so many different ways, be it what they do outside the church or just the huge amount of knowledge they bring in based on their whole life experience.
Yeah.
It makes it very easy for me. I mean, I can just sit back and say, yeah, tech will be taken care of, right? And these people show up with all this knowledge.
I know.
So much deeper than my own, and it just magically appears on the internet.
Yeah. I know, isn't that?
I don't need to get involved.
You know what I thought you were going to say is to Karen, keep the meetings to 90 minutes.
Hey, I'm not there anymore. Go all day. Have fun. Order pizza.
Okay.
That was just my thing that I really,
Growing up, did you have a favorite farm animal?
Like a named pet?
I don't know. You can interpret the question any way you wish.
I was in 4-H. And my whole childhood, all my siblings were in it. My parents were leaders. 4-H is a phenomenal program. And
are your kids in 4-H?
No. I tried when Grace was young, and I took her.
Sell it. You couldn't.
And it was Washington County, and they were all horse farmers. And I just backed down. I'm like, well, we don't have horses. We don't fit. And I didn't pursue it.
So, but when you were in 4-H, she what?
She did Girl Scouts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. When I was in 4-H, so we would do a variety of things throughout the year. And there's a county fair at one point.
Right.
So for the county fair aspect of it, because 4-H goes on year round, it's not just a fair thing. You could do projects. And you could do anything from like... refinish this furniture, you could build something. You've seen it all at the state fair.
Yes.
And the things that I would do would usually include an animal. So you would raise an animal, And we did dairy cattle, but then morphed more into like beef steers. And then you'd have to pick one that's basically going to butcher well. I mean, this is tough stuff, but you're looking at.
Would you name it?
Well, you're looking at the shape of the animal and how the cut would be. Because if you've ever gone to a show, the judges come up and touch them, and they're feeling them. Like this animal is going to serve.
And then you sell the animal.
Purpose.
Right.
And I always enjoyed the heck out of those animals. Well, some more than others. Some of them were just mean and much larger than me. And the experience the doors that it opened for me was I got to be in the barn with all the fun kids, sleep overnight in the dorms at the state fair, and have these incredible adventures. Yes, the animal was sold at the end.
Would you name the animals?
Sometimes.
That were then sold and butchered?
Yes.
Really?
I grew up on a farm. It was very utilitarian.
Yeah.
You know, everything served a role.
Yeah.
So I was raised that way.
There's more questions, and we only have like 3 minutes
The
left.
last question is going to be, how could you horrible person, send that animal off? I need John Bruner here to defend me on that one.
Okay, here is a question. I like this one. Which one of your children inspires you the most?
Oh, that's not fair. That's just a roundabout way. Are my children putting these on the internet?
Perhaps one of your children might have posed this question.
They all inspire me in different ways.
Probably the one that inspires you the most is not your favorite.
No, stop it. That's just horrible.
No, we should not make you choose.
No,
among your
all
children.
of them inspire me.
In different
ways. And
yes,
that's all I'm going
Mike.
to say. Yes, how about you? Which one is your least favorite child?
Oh, that's so easy.
Don't say it. This is forever when it's on the internet. Don't say it.
Okay, so this says, we appreciate you so much, Linda, exclamation point.
Oh, that's nice.
It's from your family.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was Angie Gordon. She always says the nicest things on there.
Yes, I know.
Oh,
Angie's
thanks,
super
family.
nice.
Hi.
Yeah, your family likes you, see? There are days those warriors have hearts.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, good job. Warriors with hearts.
Thanks, good job, Mike.
That will rock the world. Warriors with hearts.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm not pressuring them to do that much, but just, you hear it said, and then you actually have the kids, and you know it. You just want them to be happy and healthy and just kind of settled in life.
Yeah.
I really don't have these certain goals they have to attain in my head.
Right.
I just want them at peace.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's just so many questions I like. Well, anyway, I have to stick to their questions. Okay. What is the strangest story from being a lawyer? Do you want to answer that one?
Oh, there's so many. In fact, so many weird things have happened. I had a friend say, start writing this stuff down for a book. Just wild stuff. Anytime when I say, sure, I can come to your house to pick that up, is always the beginning of a bad experience. But I do it again and again. Sure, I'll drive you to court. Oh my goodness. I've had a lot of wild things. And not all of them were my own clients or my own coworkers. There was one case that just comes back to me again and again and again. It was a family in a different part of the state had an issue with my client, and it involved a sewer backup. And through the course of depositions, which is like questioning someone under oath and recording it all, they admitted that they just allowed the sewage to stay in their house for like months.
Oh, no.
And it was just this idea of envisioning what happened. That comes back to me.
Yeah. And
quite often.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The life is messy. That's particularly messy.
Literally.
Yeah,
and that was one where the whole drive home, I thought, what was their life like? Why?
Yeah.
Just why? Again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're out of time, but
Okay.
one last. Now I didn't know that you played the piano until you starred in
Nope, my son starred, my daughter starred.
Yeah, actually they did. Val was great and Will was great.
Yeah.
But you were there accompanying them on
Many
the
errors,
piano.
but yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thanks.
So the question is, when are you going to play for us again? Play piano for us again?
So once upon a time, the poor choir people are probably still have PTSD about this. Once upon a time, we had our pianist couldn't be there for choir one Sunday or something pretty minor. Maybe it was a Wednesday night thing. And
this is growing up?
No, this is in this
here?
church probably 5, 6, 7 years
Really?
ago.
Wow.
And they just said, would you play? And oh my gosh, I was a nervous wreck.
For a service of worship?
I think it was like a Wednesday night thing. It was
Okay.
something a little more
Right.
compact.
But it was here in this church? Okay.
I played that piano and
Wow.
and that was only happened one time. I could get up and give a speech or do something, but playing the piano was just, I did it for, what did I do it for? 10 years? 8 years I took lessons growing up.
Okay.
And every recital I was still a nervous wreck.
It was, that Christmas pageant thing was great.
That was fantastic. I was tempted to get a guinea pig or a gerbil and a lizard and put on a
Bearded
play.
dragon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That whole thing. And so I had to pause the credits to figure out which family was
It did
each
which.
thing.
Yeah.
It was fun.
It was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of my COVID highlights,
Yeah.
was the Christmas pageant. So we are out of time. Thank you, Linda. Thanks to all of you who tuned in tonight. Next week we are having Avis Watkins, who will be with us. Avis has such an interesting story. Her life has been super interesting. So I hope you tune in for that. And right in about 3 minutes, we have a Bible study that's beginning, and we're going through the book of Acts. So feel free to go to the website, find the link to that Bible study, and join us for that as well. So Linda, thanks so much again for agreeing to do this.
Thanks for asking me.
The trees, see the trees are between you? Yeah, yeah.
Looks great.
They're nice, aren't they?
They're gorgeous.
And again, thanks to everybody else for joining us tonight. Good night.